1, right? We also had a case, though, of suppose b is greater than 1, and a is negative. Okay. If we have that kind of case, then what we might see would be a graph that behaves in this way. Right? Just a couple of rough sketches. So there's a couple of different ways that our function can look here. When we have a quadratic, there's a lot of ways that we can kind of play with that. So there's that. So let's go ahead now and just sort of play with a couple of fun functions, just like what you're going to be having on your homework. All right, we got to play around with these. Hopefully you've got all of your notes on hand. Let's go ahead and let's just look at some interesting cases now. Just to get you in the mood for that homework problem we have. Remember, if you still need it or if you did not get it, what we have is I put a graph on the board. Looks sort of like this. Starts out with a flat line. Begins to decrease. Sort of behaves in that wise. So I gave you that graph, and then I told you, give me one story about it. Describe it, right? Using a story. Be sure to label your axis. So label both of them, the x and the y axis, and don't just label them x and y. Make sure it follows up on your story. All right, make sure it pertains to that. I want you to circle the maximum. Just circle it on the graph, seeing as we didn't have numbers on here. Put a star by the minimum. All right. And then also just make sure that you label in some way where it's increasing. Alright, label where the graph is increasing. So that is your homework for this weekend in case you all forgot. Or if it got misplaced. I remember being in junior high myself. Alright, well, let's go ahead and let's play with a couple of graphs just to be able to say that we did that. So let's drop a different one here. And let's see here. Suppose I went in this direction. Did that. Okay. Now suppose I just drew a graph that looks like this. Alright, now let's come up with a story for that. And let me have everybody just kind of pause, give it a shot, and we can kind of compare notes. Alright, I hope you all have a story for this one. So let's see here. Just real quick, I'll put an X, put a Y, and let's see here. I'm going to say that I got on an airplane and flew to Denver. That's something that I did a lot as a child. I'd end up flying to Denver, then have to hop over to Wyoming to go and visit with family that I had out that way. Alright, so I got on a plane, flew to Denver. And this graph, it's going to show my height over time. So the graph shows my height over time. Okay. Alright, let's see. Does that work in this case? Well, let's see. So it's saying that, alright, so I started to raise up slow, and then shot up in a fairly steep fashion until we got to a point where we could level off. Alright, stayed level for a time, and then began to descend down till we touched down back on the ground. So, makes some sense. We have time along this axis. We have height over here. If I wanted to show off the maximum, it's going to be my highest y value, which just looks about like it's flatlining up here. So it's fairly constant, but that's going to be the biggest part of my y value. It's going to be the tallest point on my graph. Let's see, if I want to show where it's increasing, for a lot of my classes I said just go ahead and bold it. Right? There I have it's increasing. I have increasing, constant, decreasing. Or a nice little continuous function here. And let's see, am I missing any extra stuff here? Got everything it looks like. Oh, let's put a star by the minimum. And you'll notice in this case, we hit it in two different spots. We have our minimum's going to be here, when starting on the ground. It's also going to be over here when I end on the ground. Alright? So that's one example of how we can take on the homework that we had for tonight. I hope this video has been helpful. It kind of reviews some of the terminology that we've been using throughout our various encounters here. Next time you come in, we'll be looking a little bit more at, suppose we're given a table of values, can we describe what kind of graph we have? So, make sure if you see this to bring your function family notes. Those have always kind of been helpful when we're identifying different kinds of functions. And remember to have a little bit of fun this Labor Day weekend. Hopefully the nice little one problem you got plays pretty nice with you. Some of you may even have them done in class. And I look forward to seeing you all either on Monday or Tuesday. Have a wonderful day.